We begin with Tropical Storm Beryl. It has killed at least 11 people, charting a deadly path through the Caribbean as a Category 5 hurricane earlier in the week.
Right now, Beryl is a tropical storm, but coastal counties in Texas are bracing for impact. Now, the storm is forecasted to re-strengthen into a hurricane as it gets closer to the coast today, making landfall early tomorrow morning.
It's still a tropical storm as we speak, but it will be a hurricane, and it will strengthen most likely, and it will be a deadly storm for people who are directly in that path.
Right now, there are mandatory and voluntary evacuation orders up and down the coast. There's also a run on gas, water, and other supplies in anticipation of what the storm could bring. Now, we have live team coverage tonight with 3 of our KENS 5 meteorologists tracking Beryl. Paul Mireles is in Port Lavaca.
Meanwhile, our Jeremy Baker is set up in Rockport. But first, we check in with meteorologist Ryan Shoptaw for a look at Beryl's path right now.
Yeah, guys, so still a tropical storm. That's the good news. It's slow to gain and regain hurricane status. It is forecast to become a Category 1 later tonight as it makes landfall somewhere near Matagorda Bay tomorrow morning early in the pre-dawn hours. Satellite shows you the big picture. Take a look. Lots of thunderstorms forming on that southern side and more tropical bands of rain moving farther north. Sustained wind speeds 65 miles an hour. It needs to reach 74 to be considered a Category 1. Moving north-northwest at 12 miles per hour. Pressure down to 988 millibar. You can see as those tropical bands continue to spin counterclockwise, more rain, stronger winds, heavy surf is going to be continuing along the Texas coast and along the coastal bend. Here's the latest forecast cone. Has shifted a little farther east of Matagorda Bay, but still includes Matagorda Bay, like near Port Lavaca, Palacios, and just east of that region, and has a Category 1 tomorrow morning around 2, 3, and 4 a.m. with winds over 75 miles an hour. We have full team weather coverage. First with meteorologist Paul Mireles. Paul, the cone has shifted a little farther east, but still included in that cone is Matagorda Bay. What are you seeing out there right now?
Yeah, Matagorda Bay, we still have a hurricane warning in effect. We still have a storm surge warning. And a big difference today, Ryan, as opposed to yesterday. Yesterday it was calm. If you were watching yesterday, this is Lavaca Bay, was very quiet. Well, now getting angry, lots of churn. Matter of fact, I would even say that the water's probably come up about a foot. It's kind of hard to tell with all the churn and all the action. But boy, you know that there is a system in the Gulf of Mexico when Lavaca Bay looks like this. All right, today started off a lot different than yesterday. We had notes underneath the door saying, hey, you've got to evacuate out of the hotel. Of course, didn't include media. Went running through and driving through parts of Port Lavaca. Lots of places boarded up. I think folks are starting to take it seriously. And then I had a chance to go down to Port O'Connor, down to the very south part of Matagorda Bay, and this is what one gentleman, what he had to say.
Ride it out. Yeah, we've got everything all battened down and everything. So we got several neighbors doing the same.
Yeah, so it appears that most folks, that they're going to ride this out. I mean, it's a tropical storm, seen hurricanes in this part of the world before. The thing to look for is intensification in the next several hours. If that intensification doesn't happen because the system is so broad, well, maybe it might make landfall as a tropical storm, but my bets is probably a minimal hurricane. And right here where I stand will probably be on the western eye wall. If it keeps going east, we may even miss the eye wall, but make sure and watch tomorrow morning because we should have some pretty good winds and a lot of rain here tomorrow morning.
All right, Paul, thank you. All eyes on the Texas coast right now as Beryl makes its way to landfall. Here is a live look from Port Aransas, courtesy of the Dunes. Visitors there were asked to evacuate the island by noon today.
So let's check in now with meteorologist Jeremy Baker. He's in Rockport. Jeremy, is the water rising there yet?
Not quite as much as it was where Paul is. I would say it's about half of a foot higher. Definitely a huge change from yesterday, even earlier this afternoon, even the last hour. Earlier today, no breeze at all, sunny, hot. It was in the mid-90s. It's now down to the low 80s. We've got wind at least 25 miles an hour sustained, higher gusts. but people are most concerned about the storm surge. I'm standing right next to the pier where I was this morning. It's about 3 feet off the ground from where I am. Where Aransas Bay is, though, it's about 4 to 5 feet. So if that 3 to 5 foot storm surge does happen as forecast, it will come up and over the pier, inundate this entire area with water, and go into town as well. That's not what people at Rockport want, especially one local church that acts as a temporary shelter.
If people are displaced, we're usually one of the churches that people come to. City officials give us phone calls depending on what the need is, and so we're usually there to help.
Leanna Reininger's husband is the pastor at the Fulton Community Church. Their fellowship hall was packed when people lost power during the February freeze of 2021. They say this shelter is needed year-round.
It's really important here, especially in Rockport, because there's no surrounding shelters in the area. So it's just throughout the years, as different disasters have come this way, where we've realized the need in this area for us to be able to help people in this community.
You see all these sandbags volunteers put here by the front doors because the bay is just 2 blocks away, and this is where the water would rush in. But now the church says they're just in wait and see mode.
So we're keeping a very close eye on the storm, seeing where it's going to go, how much rainfall we're going to get, how much flooding is going to come in this area, how much storm surge is going to come.
During Tropical Storm Alberto last month, the church says many of these tiles came down on top of the sound equipment thanks to the heavy rain. That's why they're wrapping everything up that could become severely damaged in case of flooding. Reininger says with the more northern track of the storm, she's a little less concerned, but still on alert.
So it's just like remaining in a place of peace and just constantly keeping an eye and trying to be wise with what we do.
Yeah, they're not taking any chances. They even wrapped up computers on their second floor too. And when they're wrapping up computers on the second floor, you know they're serious about taking precautions, which all should be completed by now for everybody. But if you know anybody that is in need of anything, like a ride out of town if they haven't evacuated, or some food, you can call the church's office. That number 361-729-2180. Reporting live from Rockport, Jeremy Baker, KENS 5.
Well, you can really hear the winds whipping there as Jeremy was wrapping it up there. All right, well, local organizations are waiting to receive word on when and where Tropical Storm Beryl will make landfall.
And one of the organizations equipped and ready to serve is the Salvation Army of San Antonio. KENS 5, Simone Simpson has the story.
With days of preparation, the Salvation Army of San Antonio is ready to help those that will be impacted by Tropical Storm Beryl. These 2 mobile feeding units will be signs that hope is on the way.
1 week of planning. And after many discussions,
ready to go, and we're going to leave Monday morning. That's the plan.
The organization is rolling out through action.
When San Antonio serves, we got to spice things up a little. Got jalapenos.
Brad Mayhar, who's been with the organization for a decade, says several volunteers will be deployed to help serve communities in the storm's path.
We always hear stories from our team when they come back from a deployment. They're energized because they're so inspired by the service that they've been able to offer,
which include cleanup kits, warm meals, and even words of encouragement. Mayhar says the needs of the community change moment by moment.
Today's needs might be different than the needs of tomorrow.
The simplest way to lend the volunteers a hand is through monetary donations.
As we don't have to worry about shipping items, where to store items, will items arrive on time.
Keeping their focus on those who need it most is their primary mission.
When these people are facing one of the worst days of their lives, they remember years later how the Salvation Army was there for them.
5 volunteers will be deployed from this location. Mayhar says every penny from financial donations will go to those in need. Go to helpsalvationarmy.org to learn more. Reporting from downtown, Simone Simpson, KENS 5.
And we'll have continuing coverage of Beryl through the weekend. Be sure to tune in. You can also follow updates online at KENS5.com and, of course, the KENS 5 app.